Okay, so imagine this. You're at the Global AI Summit in Riyadh, right? And you're surrounded by all these brilliant people. There's amazing technology everywhere.
I can only imagine.
I know, right? And everyone's talking about how AI is going to change the world, like seriously change the world.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is, and that's kind of what we're doing in this deep dive today, going deep into all things AI.
Exactly. We're tackling the day one live stream transcript from the summit.
Which, let's be real, is a ton of information to process.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's like drinking from a fire hose.
A fire hose of AI knowledge. That's a
Ah.
good way to put it. So that's where we come in. We're here to break it all down for you.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that struck me was how the conversation at the summit seemed to move away from all the AI hype and towards like actual real world applications.
Oh, absolutely. It felt like a turning point. Remember when every company and their mother was throwing around terms like machine learning and AI? Like it was going out of style.
It was impossible to escape.
Exactly. This time it felt different. There was this real focus on tangible benefits. You know how AI can actually solve problems for people and the planet
Hmm.
and even boost prosperity.
Right, like it's not just about sounding impressive anymore. So, what were some of the concrete examples that stood out to you? How are people actually using AI to tackle these big challenges?
Well, one that caught my attention was Aramco's presentation.
Right.
They were talking about how they're using AI for methane management.
Methane management. Okay, I have to admit that doesn't sound super exciting.
It's not the most glamorous topic I know,
I know.
but it's actually incredibly important. Methane is a really potent greenhouse gas, even worse than CO2 in many ways.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah. And Aramco is using AI to find and stop methane leaks from their operations. It's a win-win. It's good for the environment, and it's good for their business. They're using some really cool tech to do it, too.
Okay, so tell me more about that. How does AI actually help with something like methane detection?
So they're using this combination of sensors, drones, and AI-powered data analysis. The AI can look at the data from the sensors in real time, pinpoint exactly where the leaks are, and even predict where future leaks might happen.
Wow, that's really impressive. So they're not just reacting to leaks as they happen, but they're actually preventing them before they even start.
Exactly. It's like having a crystal ball for methane leaks.
That's a good way to put it. And that's just one example. We also heard about AI being used to make traffic flow better in cities and to personalize cancer treatments.
The potential applications are pretty much endless at this
Yeah.
point.
Speaking of personalized healthcare, I kept hearing that term pop up. Did the summit dig into that at
Oh,
all?
yeah, definitely. Healthcare was a big focus.
Hmm.
Imagine a world where your doctor could use AI to create a treatment plan that's tailored to your specific genetic makeup. No more one-size-fits-all medicine,
That would be incredible. No more guessing games.
right? Or picture AI helping researchers develop new drugs and therapies much faster than we ever thought possible. We could potentially cure diseases that we thought were incurable.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. That's exciting stuff. But of course, we're also talking about some seriously powerful technology here. So I'm guessing this rapid advancement also sparked some important conversations about ethics and governance.
Right, yeah, it's like we're on the verge of this whole new era in medicine.
But it makes you think about the responsibility that comes with that, right? I mean, we're talking about life or death decisions potentially being made with the help of algorithms. So, did the summit address how we make sure this technology is used ethically?
Oh, absolutely. It was a huge topic of discussion. You
Yeah,
can't really talk about AI these days without talking about the ethical implications.
right. It's not just about building cool tech anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. There was this real sense at the summit that we need strong guidelines and governance frameworks to keep up with how fast AI is changing. It's a real balancing act, though.
Balancing act. What do you mean by that? What needs to be balanced?
Well, on the one hand, we want to encourage innovation, right? We don't want to stifle progress. But at the same time, we need to protect against potential risks. We need to make sure that AI is being developed responsibly.
So, thinking about things like data privacy and bias and even the possibility of misuse.
Exactly. It's not just about biased algorithms on social media anymore. We're
Yeah.
talking about technologies that could have a huge impact on healthcare finance, even the justice system.
It's high stakes stuff.
It is. And no single country can solve these problems on its own. We need global cooperation, global solutions.
Did the summit highlight any specific initiatives or collaborations that are trying to address these global challenges?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One big announcement was this partnership between Saudi Arabia and UNESCO to create an international center for AI ethics.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems like they're really serious about taking the lead on responsible AI development.
That's a big step. A whole center dedicated to AI ethics. It feels like we're finally starting to treat this with the seriousness it deserves. But ethical AI isn't just about preventing harm. It's also about making sure that everyone benefits from it.
Absolutely. It's about making sure that the benefits of AI are accessible to all.
So did the summit address that aspect as well?
Yeah, the idea of democratizing AI was a big focus.
Democratizing AI. Okay, so what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, for one thing, it means addressing the digital divide. We need to make sure that people everywhere have access to the internet and the technology they need to participate in the AI revolution.
That makes sense.
And it also means making sure that the people who are actually developing these AI systems represent the diversity of the people who will be using them.
Because if the people building these systems don't reflect the diversity of the users, we're going to end up with solutions that only work for a select few.
Exactly. And that brings us right back to the ethical considerations we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
Several speakers from the Global South really emphasized this point.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It really is. They were saying that it's not just about fairness, it's about making sure that these AI systems are actually meeting the needs of all communities.
So it's not just about building AI that's free from bias, but AI that's actually working towards a more equitable world.
That's the goal.
I like that a lot.
Mhm.
And it seems like businesses are starting to understand the importance of AI in a really serious way. One thing I noticed was this rise of the chief AI officer.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a trend we're seeing more and more of.
I have to admit, when I first heard the term chief AI officer, I thought it sounded kind of like a made-up job title, like something from a science fiction
Which
movie.
does sound a little futuristic.
But it's really interesting to think about how this role is becoming more common. So what exactly does a chief AI officer do?
Well, AI isn't just relegated to the IT department anymore. It's impacting every part of a business, from customer service to product development. A chief AI officer is responsible for figuring out how to integrate AI across the entire organization. They need to understand the technology, the ethics, the business strategies, the whole shebang.
That sounds like a big job.
It is. It's a huge responsibility,
Right.
but it's an essential role as AI becomes more and more central to what we do.
It makes you wonder what other new job titles we'll see popping up in the next few
Oh, all
years.
right.
So with all this talk about robots and algorithms and data, it's easy to get lost in the technical side of things. But I'm curious, what was the overall feeling like at the summit? Was there a sense of excitement about the future? Or was there some fear mixed in?
I mean, there was definitely a buzz of excitement. It really felt like everyone there knew that they were witnessing a major turning point. But it wasn't all just blind optimism. There was definitely a sense of responsibility, too.
That balance we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly. The awareness that AI is an incredibly powerful tool that can be used for good or for bad.
So what would you say was the biggest takeaway from the summit?
That's a tough one. There was so much to process. But I think if I had to choose one thing, it would be the importance of human agency in the age of AI.
Agency. Okay, tell me more about that. What do you mean?
One of the speakers said something that really stuck with me. He said, "In a world increasingly shaped by AI, will we be the ones shaping it, or will it be shaping us?"
Whoa, that's a pretty profound question and kind of a scary one when you really think about it. It really makes you think, huh, are we calling the shots or are we just along for the ride?
Right. It's a big question.
Yeah.
And most people at the summit seem to agree that we still have a choice.
Okay, so we're not just powerless bystanders in this AI revolution.
Yeah, we're not. We have the power to steer AI in a direction that benefits humanity. At least that's the hope.
That's a more optimistic way to look at it. But where do we even begin? I mean, it all feels so big, so complex. What can any one person actually do to make sure AI is a force for good?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. But one thing that kept coming up at the summit was the importance of education. And not just for the tech people, but for everyone.
So knowledge is power when it comes to AI, too.
Exactly. The more people understand about AI, how it works, what it can do, what it can't do, the better equipped it will be to make smart decisions about its role in our lives.
Makes sense. But it can feel kind of overwhelming, right? Like, where do you even start if you want to learn more about AI?
You don't have to become a programmer overnight or anything. Just start by reading articles, listening to podcasts like this one, maybe take an online course. There are tons of resources out there.
And it's not just about understanding the technical side of it either, right? It's
Mhm.
about the bigger picture, the
Yeah.
ethics, the impact on society.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be asking those tough questions. How do we make sure AI is used fairly? How do we protect our privacy in a world where data is everywhere? How do we prevent AI from being used for harmful purposes? These are conversations we all need to be having.
It can feel intimidating, though, like trying to make your voice heard in a room full of experts.
I hear you. But one of the most encouraging things I heard at the summit was this emphasis on collaboration. We need people from all walks of life to work together on this back. Technologists, policymakers, ethicists, everyday citizens, everyone has a role to play.
Because it's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we weave it into our lives, our communities, our societies. It's about shaping the future we want to see.
And that's what makes events like the Global AI Summit so important. They bring people together to have these conversations, to share ideas, to collaborate. It's a step in the right direction.
So to everyone listening, remember, this AI isn't some far-off thing. It's here, it's happening now, and it's impacting all of us.
And it's up to all of us to make sure it's used for good.
To create a future where everyone benefits. We've got our work cut out for us.
We do. But I'm actually feeling pretty optimistic after that summit.
Me too. There's so much potential here, and so much good that we can do if we work together.
Absolutely. So let's do this.
Let's do it. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into the Global AI Summit. But don't let the conversation end here. Keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and most importantly, keep imagining the future you want to see.
Yeah,
Until next time.
Riyadh. Looks like lots to unpack.
Lots of big
Big names, big ideas.
ideas. Yeah.
You want the VIP tour, right?
Absolutely. This is
Let's deep dive into this.
this is the big leagues. This is where we figure out where AI is going next.
Okay, so paint a picture for me before we get into the nitty-gritty. What were the main takeaways?
Well, the main thing that I'm seeing is that this is a global conversation now.
Okay,
This isn't just Silicon Valley.
right.
This is the world coming together
Yeah.
to talk about AI and where it's going. And I think the three big things that kept coming up were, first, how AI is poised to completely change the game in industries like healthcare
Okay.
and urban development. Second, the need for global cooperation, because no one country can set the rules for something this big.
Right.
And finally, a real emphasis on responsible development.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of responsible development, I see Microsoft really took a strong stance on that.
Absolutely. They're really focusing on what they call AI for good.
Okay.
So using AI to create economic opportunities, boost access to skills training, and promote sustainable development.
So they're really putting their money where their mouth is.
They're putting a lot of emphasis on making sure AI benefits everyone.
And it's interesting because Qualcomm seems to be on a similar wavelength. I'm seeing here they highlighted their partnership with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, that's a great example of AI in action.
Okay.
They're working on using AI to drive progress in key areas like education, healthcare, and the digital economy within Saudi Arabia.
So really hitting all the major points there. And then we have Cisco advocating for a multi-stakeholder approach to AI governance.
Yeah,
You're really pushing for global collaboration.
they're really pushing for global collaboration.
And frameworks that everyone can work with.
And frameworks that everyone can work with.
So it seems like you have these tech giants all recognizing that they need to be a part of shaping how AI develops, not just building the technology.
It's not just about the tech itself, it's about where we take it.
Exactly. And speaking of global players, I see there was a lot of buzz around a Chinese AI company called Zhu.
Yeah.
They were even dubbed one of the AI tigers.
They were one of the AI tigers, and they're definitely one to watch.
Okay.
They're making big waves with their ambitious goal of achieving artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Okay, so essentially creating AI that can learn and think like a human.
Essentially, yeah. And they're putting a lot of money behind it. They're valuing themselves at $3 billion.
Wow.
So very ambitious, to say the least.
And while we're on the topic of ambitious goals, the summit also tackled the huge task of global AI regulation.
Yes.
Did they manage to find any common ground?
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges they highlighted was the difficulty of creating a one-size-fits-all approach to AI governance,
Sure.
because the world is just so diverse.
Of course, right. And with different cultures and values that need to be considered.
Exactly. How do you create guidelines that respect those differences?
Yeah, it's a tough one to crack.
It's a tough one to crack because something that we might consider ethical here in the U.S.
Right.
could be taboo somewhere else,
Exactly.
and vice versa.
It's not as simple as just saying, this is right, this is wrong.
Exactly.
It's about navigating this complex web of different perspectives.
It's 100%.
And speaking of navigating, I noticed the summit also explored how AI is impacting different sectors like marketing, and this idea of answer engine optimization, or AEO, really jumped out at me.
Oh, yeah. AEO.
Yeah, have you heard of this?
I have heard of AEO. So, we're moving away from traditional search engines
Okay.
where you had to sift through pages of results
Right.
and towards AI-powered answer engines that provide a much more direct and personalized experience.
So instead of just giving you a list of options, it tells you what it thinks is best.
Exactly. And that's why this idea of answer engine optimization is so important for brands.
They need to adapt.
They need to adapt to this new landscape
Hmm.
if they want to stay visible and relevant.
Otherwise, they get lost in the noise.
But it's not just about visibility. It's about how this is going to start shaping consumer choices in a way we haven't seen before.
Because it's so easy to just be like, oh, well, the AI told me this, so it must be true.
Right. It's blurring the lines between information and influence.
Okay.
When an AI gives you an answer, it's essentially making a recommendation.
Right.
And that's why it's more important than ever to really cultivate critical thinking skills.
Yeah. You can't just check out and just let the AI run your life,
Well,
essentially.
you can't switch off those critical thinking skills just because an AI told you something.
Exactly. You got to think for yourself.
Think for yourself, question the information you're getting, look from multiple perspectives. Don't just blindly accept what the AI is telling you.
It's like putting blind faith in a navigation system. You might end up in a lake, if you're not careful.
Now, while we're on the subject of AI's influence,
Mhm.
this summit really dug into some really cool potential for tangible progress, like in precision medicine and urban development.
Okay.
I mean, this is really cool stuff.
Yeah, because that's what I found so interesting. It's one thing to talk about it in the theoretical, but when you see its application in these really vital industries like healthcare and city planning, it becomes much more real. You know what I mean?
Right. Imagine a world where treatments are tailored to you,
Okay.
to your specific genetic makeup and medical history.
Okay.
That's the power of AI in precision medicine.
So it can analyze massive amounts of patient data
Yes.
and identify patterns.
It can identify patterns. It can predict health risks with an accuracy that we have never seen before.
And it goes beyond just treatment too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It can be used for preventative care,
Early detection.
early detection, catching diseases like cancer in their earliest and most treatable stages.
This has the potential to completely revolutionize how we approach healthcare.
That's amazing. Okay, so healthcare is definitely going to be disrupted by AI, but then you look at something like city planning, right? That's
Yeah.
a whole other beast.
We're talking about optimizing traffic flow, managing energy consumption, creating more sustainable living environments.
Okay.
Like AI can be used to address these urban planning challenges and then some.
It's like having a super intelligent city planner
Right.
who can just kind of like zoom out and see everything at once
It allows us to move beyond reactive solutions and toward a more preventative approach.
instead of constantly playing catch up.
Instead of constantly playing catch-up, we can use AI to create more efficient and livable urban spaces.
And that brings us to another crucial aspect of the AI revolution, its impact on the workforce. And there was a lot of discussion at the summit about the skills people will need to thrive in this rapidly changing landscape. What did you gather from that?
Yeah, it's not just about technical skills anymore.
Okay.
It's about adaptability, critical thinking, creativity, those uniquely human skills.
It's about being able to learn, unlearn, relearn as the pace of technological advancement just keeps accelerating.
It's this idea of lifelong learning being so important, right?
Yeah.
It's about constantly evolving your skill set.
To stay ahead of the curve because you can't just rely on one skill set for your entire career anymore.
And what's interesting is we're seeing organizations embrace this, like Saudi Aramco, with their Citizen Developers Program.
Oh, yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
They're essentially empowering their employees, even those without a tech background,
Okay.
to develop their own AI solutions using these like accessible tools.
So they're basically saying, we're going to give you the keys to the car here.
They're democratizing AI knowledge within their own workforce.
That's really interesting.
They have over 1,500 certified citizen developers now
Wow.
who've already created thousands of AI programs.
And these are people who didn't necessarily have that background before.
It really highlights that this isn't about replacing human jobs. It's about augmenting human capabilities.
Working smarter, not harder.
Working smarter, not harder with AI as our ally, not our enemy.
So the future of work with AI is less about humans versus machines and more about this kind of like synergistic relationship.
Humans and machines working together, kind of like peanut butter and jelly.
I like it. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the potential benefits of AI, but the summit didn't shy away from addressing some of the potential downsides either, right?
Oh, of course not.
There were some discussions about things like job displacement and data privacy,
Of course, those are real concerns, and they need to be part of the conversation.
because we don't want to just pretend those problems aren't there.
Exactly. It's not all sunshine and roses, right? But I think what's encouraging is that the summit really emphasize the importance of proactively addressing these challenges.
So it was more than just, hey, these are problems. They actually dove into potential solutions.
Yeah, they did, for example, they talked a lot about reskilling and upskilling programs to help workers adapt to the changing job market.
Yeah, because we got to equip people for the jobs of the future.
Exactly, give them
Yeah.
the tools they need to succeed.
Okay, so job displacement's a big one. What about data privacy?
Data privacy is huge, and there was a lot of emphasis on the need for, strong regulations,
Right, because the technology is there.
ethical frameworks to govern the use of AI and data.
You got it right. With great power comes great responsibility.
100%. You can't just unleash AI without considering the potential consequences.
And that brings up another point that came up, the digital divide. We
Mhm.
can't just create this future where only like the privileged few get to benefit, right?
Right. It needs to be accessible.
AI for everybody.
Yeah, it has to be for everyone. It has to be equitable.
So what are some of the ways they talked about bridging that gap?
Investing in digital literacy programs, expanding access to technology, making sure that underserved communities have a seat at the table.
Making sure that this is a rising tide that lifts all boats,
100%. It's about making sure AI is a force for good for everyone.
not just a tool to make a quick buck.
Exactly.
Okay, so as we kind of like emerge from this deep dive into this summit, what's the key takeaway for our listener? What should they be kind of pondering as they go about their day?
I think the biggest takeaway is that AI is not some distant future scenario. It's here, it's now, and it's rapidly transforming everything.
It's not science fiction.
This is the reality we're living in.
It's happening right now.
Whether you're a tech enthusiast,
Hmm.
a business leader, or just someone who wants to understand what's going on, this is the time to engage in the conversation.
Yeah, you don't get to sit this one out.
You don't get to sit this one out. And I think the exciting part is it's not predetermined, right?
Okay.
The future of AI is something we're all actively shaping
Through our choices.
through our choices and our actions.
So it's a shared responsibility then
100%.
to think critically about this, to use our voices, to advocate for a future where this benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
Exactly. We have a voice. We have to use it.
Love that message. Well, this has been quite a journey through these transcripts. Thanks for navigating them with me.
Anytime, happy to geek out with you about AI.
Until next time.
See